What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you go to coinmastery.com/invest. Get your free PDF all about dollar cost averaging and how to get started and start dominating this incredible financial revolution that we are going through. Today, we're talking about the obvious futures market shenanigans, epicness, whatever you want to call it. We're going to walk through a little bit about what these futures are, what it means, and specifically what the next week is going to look like. And if it's going to mean the price is going up, going down, should you get involved? Should you try trading futures? Answer a lot of these questions that a lot of people have. We're going to talk a little bit about Litecoin, and specifically I want to talk about Litecoin as it relates to a macro picture, because obviously the price of Litecoin is what it is. It's crushing it right now. But what does that really mean? Why is it happening? Talk a little bit about altcoins as usual, and then I want to finish up by talking a bit about a new trend that I think is going to be very indicative over the next 6 months of big opportunities and of some of these, what they call the network effect, which essentially becomes a winner take all. For you, that means how do you identify things in the news that can translate into profitable buying decisions, what coins to focus on, what prices to focus on, and how you can potentially get that kind of information early on. Okay, other quick announcement, pending a meeting I have probably today or tomorrow. If you live in San Francisco, I'm going to try to do a meetup at my office. We're together, it's like a building, but we have a huge co-working space area. I don't know what the maximum number is, but stay tuned. I'm also going to try to do one in LA and New York in the next month or two. So if you don't live in San Francisco, no sweat, but keep an eye out for that. I should be announcing it. I'll let you guys know. Same on Twitter. Hopefully we can do it before the holidays. That'd be pretty sweet. But man, meeting up with people, it's the name of the game in finance. Making connections, meeting people. It is the thing, the best thing you can do for an ROI standpoint. Now, let's look at Bitcoin. It was quite a wild time. I don't know about you. I was definitely watching this. I didn't do a live stream because I kind of have as much as I wish I worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I forced myself to try to chill on the weekends. That's why I didn't do it. But hopefully you guys were watching this. It was cool to watch. It's always exciting to see these sort of things happen. Now, if you are brand new to the financial industry or trading or whatever, what futures do is it allows someone to speculate on the future price in the sense that they can reserve the right to buy a certain property, asset, contract in the future at a particular price. So just real quick, if you look at CBOE, which is actually an options clearinghouse, but they were the first to do Bitcoin futures. They're much smaller than CME, which is what's happening next week, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you can see on this, and I'll link this up if you want to check it out. If someone was buying the XBT F8 contract, that means that they're essentially betting on what the price was going to look like on January 17th, 2018. I'm oversimplifying this, but that's really what's going on here. And so these traders are betting on what that future price will be, right? And so you can see how it's kind of a predictor, so to speak, of what people think the price may be. Now, the reason why this is important is, one, if you buy Bitcoin and you think Bitcoin is going up, you can buy a futures contract maybe that goes down for a tenth of the price, so that if it does go down and you lose money on your Bitcoin, you actually make money on the futures contract because you got that right. So that's why this is a big deal. And it also can be a way for markets to get some semblance of where sentiment is going, for better or for worse. Meaning if something good comes out, good news comes out, and the futures price goes up to 25,000, that feeds the machine to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Similarly, if some bad news comes out and the futures market goes way down, that can plant a very bad psychological seed in the ecosystem. Doesn't mean they're actually shorting. Like, they don't own Bitcoin. They're not shorting it. They're just predicting that it can go down. And these futures markets traditionally become a very, very competitive game in other commodities. I mean, if you study any other commodity, futures markets can really do a number on just public perception, and in an ecosystem like Bitcoin, where it's highly emotional and it's not that big, relatively speaking. It just, I like to think about it like gasoline. So if it goes up, it can go way up. If it goes down, it can go way down until the hedging happens. And the hedging probably won't happen for a couple more weeks. Yesterday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern in the United States, the futures contracts went live, meaning people could start trading it. And the people who could trade it, you have to have an account with, in this case, CBOE, but you got to buy a premium feed in order to get the real-time data. A little different than how Bitcoin works, but there's a bit of a run-up, bit of a sell-off, and then within this, I mean, it was almost like 2-minute stretch. It just skyrocketed almost 10% and then immediately came back down, and then you can see this ongoing uprun. This is not futures traders, okay? It's important to realize that this big candle, this was people who are buying Bitcoin on GDAX or Gemini or Bitfinex or Bitstamp or any of these big exchanges. This is just whales just pumping the price because they saw some news here that was relatively positive. They were looking at their real-time terminal, and it was just, they knew that there's gonna be a lot of people watching this, and it's the ultimate pump and dump. That's what it was. Because this futures volume isn't big enough to justify anyone doing anything else. And then that's also why you see this downward candle. Now, the subsequent run-up does have to do with the overall sentiment of these futures being positive, but there are limits on the futures contracts, right? If it goes, I believe it's 7%, the market will freeze itself, right? It's called limit stop itself, so that if it starts to go parabolic either way, it'll freeze the market, let things cool down so that people can make better decisions. And then I believe on a daily close, open and close, it can't shift more than 20%, which is actually a fair amount when this gets big, but they're trying to put in some sort of capital controls on that. But the impact is what it is on the Bitcoin market, which in itself is a incredibly speculative market already. It's trading as of now. This is delayed, right? These are not real-time charts. I don't have a Bloomberg terminal yet. No, I don't think I ever will. But you can see that the price is higher than what the current price is. So for the volume that's coming through right now, people are bullish on Bitcoin. Will that change? Yes. Does it necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen? No. It's another piece of the pie. It gives people a hedge more than anything. Here's what you can expect to see over the next week. The biggest thing is that you're going to see this volume start to increase. So right now in the CBOE, so to speak, there's about 3,400 contracts, at least on the January contract. And then you can see how the price further out has, there's only 29.80. The volume is not really there. Realize that this is not Bitcoins. This is contracts. I believe they're five or seven Bitcoins per contract. So it's a little different in that sense. Over the next week, you're going to see that volume increase a little bit. You're going to see CME come out on the 18th, which I believe is a week from today. And then when the CME comes out, that's when we're going to start to see what this futures market really does, because you're going to see more volume start to trickle in. But I honestly don't think this is going to be a huge deal until enough data has come across the trading desks for a lot of these bigger players to see what's going on, right? They can run it through their software. They can assess the liquidity. They can look at the sentiment. They can schedule or build out their investments or their thesis, their trading ideas. So I think we're going to see a lot of bullish behavior. I think we're going to see a bit of ups and downs, people trying to scalp and make money on these futures markets. The liquidity is just too difficult to be able to put a here's what's going to happen type of thing. So I think it's just looks like it's going to be bullish. I think CME is going to be the next big one in a week, and then the real test is when new players start to come in, and you'll see it. I mean, you'll know when more people are starting to play or put more money into this. We'll see what the price looks like. I personally think what's going to happen with futures markets, or what the impact would be, is less about the price implications and more of a if and when news comes out in the next 2 weeks, good news or bad news, it is going to be a total gasoline. It's going to really impact the way people perceive Bitcoin. So if there's a lot of good news that comes out, futures markets will skyrocket the price. If bad news comes out, then futures may accelerate the downward trend. So very exciting times. In terms of trading it, I'm not a trader. This is not my bullpen. I think it's interesting though from a hedging standpoint. So I'm probably going to look into it. But for I would say 90% of people watching this, I wouldn't worry about it. Just buy Bitcoin and just hold on. Cool. All right, let's take a look at what's going on. I think Litecoin's really interesting. Let's look at the charts. Almost at an all-time high right now. At the very least, it's we're looking at 30-minute candles. You're getting the candles closing as higher than they've ever been. This previous all-time high, which I guess happened a couple of days ago on the 9th, that was just a wick, just popped up. So that's not a true sign of the market. That's more of just a huge run-up. So this second all-time high is a good indicator. Now, if it breaks through this level, let's say 198, and I'm sure if you looked on GDAX right now with the order books, there would be a huge sell wall, and at 200, just like on Bitcoin, as soon as it hits that 200, it's gonna move up, and as the price goes up, those numbers will go up because the percentages will stay the same. That's how psychology works. So keep an eye on Litecoin. I think that what Litecoin's doing is perfect timing for this market, because I think the product's great. I think Charlie Lee's great. I think that the Litecoin Foundation is great, but they're starting to put out a marketing campaign just as Bitcoin is starting to get big enough for people to start to look at this as an unattainable asset, at least from a retail standpoint. When I say retail, people who sign up for Coinbase have $1,000, they want to buy some crypto. Litecoin is quickly becoming the alternative. I think that the story that Litecoin is going to start painting for people is you miss Bitcoin, but you're not going to miss this. Look at the prices. Like this one's 16,000, this one's only 200. This is your chance at the next crypto 2.0. I think that story is way, way, way more powerful than it's ever been. And I think that one theory that I'm working on is that I think that Bitcoin, if markets truly are trying to move as much money from the many to the few, if it's trying to screw as many people as possible, as all markets do, one way that Bitcoin could do this is by going straight to 100,000. Because think about how many people just would never buy in, that just would just keep waiting for a big enough dip to get back in, or waiting for the crash. And if that many people missed that dip, and then also people, as it gets up to 50 or 60,000, people who own it are like, whoa, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. Should I sell it? I'm rich now. What do I do? Or whatever. So just holding all the way to 100,000 would shake out a lot of people as well. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but it is, it's a plausible thesis of what's happening. Litecoin is going to capitalize on this price no matter what. It's going to capitalize on Bitcoin's price no matter what, in the sense that it's cheaper. And Bitcoin, for all its problems, Litecoin is a better currency. It's a better way to move money around with Lightning and all that. Bitcoin's getting Lightning Network, but it's still got its governance problems. It's still got, a variety of branding issues. So I'm bullish on Litecoin. I like Litecoin. I've been buying a lot of Litecoin. This gap, this is a USD chart, so I'm a little less concerned, but this gap is a little bit concerning. But just the way this market's going, I think it's it's interesting. So keep it in mind. Other interesting piece of news for anybody who is a trader or who trades whatever for fun. Binance just got a stop limit order, whatever you want to call it. This allows you to set your stop losses on particular orders. Now, it also means you got to keep your money on an exchange, that which is always a big risk, so that's probably the bigger concern. But this was one of the biggest reasons why people were staying on Bittrex. And for all of the things that Bittrex has offered with liquidity, with coins, Binance has done a really good job at keeping up. Stop losses are going to be a much bigger draw for people. So what that means for you is that you should, first of all, if you don't have an account on Binance, go get one. You can go to coinmastery.com/Binance. Sign up for that. It's an affiliate link, just FYI. And they have a lot. They just have a ton of coins. They have good amount of liquidity. They get a lot of ICOs listed here. But now they have more trading tools. They're keeping up. They're constantly adding to this. Whether or not Binance, the coin, is a good purchase, I don't really know. But it's always good to have multiple options for buying and selling, because if Bittrex goes down, or there's a coin on here that you like, whatever. So go check that out. Speaking of which, with altcoins, the big thing to keep in mind here, or to notice on days like today, are what I call buying relief. If you've been watching this channel, you know that I talk about behavioral finance every once in a while, and how the core human needs drive everything in life. Doesn't matter how disciplined you think you are, it's going to drive you. And one of the biggest moments of buying behavior in crypto is when you go from uncertainty to certainty, or I should say perceived uncertainty to certainty. Yesterday, there was a massive amount of uncertainty in the Bitcoin market. And then when the futures came out, there was a huge amount of relief, which is perceived certainty, right? That's kind of what relief is in many ways. When you see that, you're going to see a huge rush of people to say, okay, well, now that Bitcoin thing's over, I can relax. Where do I get the returns? And you'll notice, if you guys are in groups, if you guys are on Reddit, if you guys are on Twitter, wherever you hang out, you'll notice that there's a lot of people that today are like, oh, what should I buy? What altcoin should I get? Like, what's a good deal? When in reality, every single time this has happened, Bitcoin has always continued to be one of, if not the best investments. Like, it's very difficult to time it right unless you know something about these coins, unless you've done really good technical analysis, unless you know there's some sort of fundamental event that's going to come out, or that you believe in it long term. But keep that in mind. You got to be conscious of your own behavior in these moments, because anytime that there is a big switch, in this case, relief, uncertainty to certainty, perceived certainty, this is what moves these altcoins. Now, you can play that, right? You can. That is a loose trading thesis, but nothing is dipped. Things are still going way up. And just because this went up, this now looks like a dip. It actually didn't change that much. It's just a lot of perceptions changed. So, inevitably, this Bitcoin's going to do its thing, and we'll cycle through this again. And it's a hard game to win. That's why a lot of people, when you look back in the last 6 months, if you just held Bitcoin, it would have been, probably a more profitable move because of these sort of emotional cycles. So I think that's the big thing that I'm seeing today, and we'll continue to see in the altcoin markets. Now, last thing, this is kind of a macro standpoint, which is something that I try to bring to the table. It's something that a lot of people in crypto don't talk about. A lot of people talk about the charts and the micro, which is super valuable. But I think it's also really important to see the bigger picture. Now, this is not a promotion. This is not an endorsement of Bitcoin Cash, nor is it an endorsement of Stellar Lumens. What this is news about different currencies being adopted as de facto currencies. Over the next year, you are going to see a lot of different groups starting to use different currencies. So in this case, SBI Group, which is a huge conglomerate in Japan, where they are going to start using this as their currency. WeChat, which is just the biggest, most massive juggernaut of an app in China, is going to start using NEM, right? Which, I don't know where they are, but yeah, right here. Last week, they had just an enormous week because they're going to start using it. Satoshi Pay, which is a much smaller web-based payment processor, is going to start using Stellar Lumens, or is using Stellar Lumens. And the reason why this is important is that as you see these bits of news come out, and you're going to see something come out with Litecoin. Hey, this Apple Pay is using. I mean, who knows who's going to use it? Somebody's going to start using Litecoin. Somebody's going to start using Monero. Somebody's going to start using Bitcoin Cash, and that is the bet. Who or what ecosystem is going to successfully integrate that crypto into the ecosystem so that people start using it day in and day out? And everyone can take a guess, but one of the things you can do as an investor is go research SBI Group. How well have they integrated products into the past? Who's their demographic? How are they going to onboard people? Is Satoshi Pay going to be effective on the web? Go research this. Go see if you would use this. How would you use this? Could you integrate this to your site, to a site yourself? And as you see any other news about this, or as you hear about news like this, because this is going to be, these are going to be the power moves over the next 6 to 12 months. This is what you're going to see. So all these different players start to integrate cryptos into different use cases, and a couple of them are going to start to hit. And once they start to hit, the market cap is going to just take off in a big way, and it's going to leave the rest in the dust. That's why the top winners in crypto will be the big winners, and everything else is just going to kind of hover around over the next 12 months. So keep an eye on this. And no one knows. I mean, I couldn't tell you which is going to work. All I can do is keep up with this and investigate, research it, and potentially invest accordingly. But I do think that this is really interesting. I think currencies are going to be the big trend of 2018. The big winners are going to be the coins that can actually become some level of payment methods, because that's what's going to get people to really start to believe that this is a viable payment network, the same way PayPal and Apple Pay and all those currently are. Cool. All right. Well, very exciting stuff. Mondays, always great. We'll keep an eye on this. We'll obviously be watching the price of Bitcoin. We'll watch the price of the futures market as the week goes on. And then we'll keep our eye on the news. There's a lot of kind of random news stuff coming out. I'm not interested in doing rumors. So until it's confirmed, we won't talk about anything in the news, but keep your head to the grindstone, foot to the grindstone, ear to the grindstone, whatever. And I'll see you on Twitter, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Peace out.